Modern life offers the ability to communicate across the globe in seconds, yet this ease of access coincides with declining emotional security. We stand shoulder to shoulder in digital spaces while remaining isolated in our daily lives. Relationships have become exceptionally fragile. A single disagreement now triggers a total break in communication. We block friends over a sharp word and nurture grudges that persist for years after a conversation has ended. This creates a strange double standard. We demand flawlessness from our partners and friends, yet we offer them only impatience and rigid judgment. We expect perfection from others while allowing our own ego to dictate our reactions. The ancient Eastern text, Di Zhi, provides a psychological framework for these exact struggles. It focuses on the mechanics of the ego, offering specific rules for managing internal reactions to forge more resilient human bonds. Ancient philosophers observed that inner peace depends on how we govern our responses to the flaws of those around us. By shifting our focus from the external error to our internal reaction, we change the quality of our connections. This is illustrated by the story of a farmer who walked a long distance every morning to fetch water using 2 clay pots. One pot was flawlessly constructed. The other was compromised by a small crack on its side. The data shows a stark contrast in performance. The perfect pot retains its full volume, while the cracked pot loses exactly 50% of its water before reaching the house. This failure led the cracked pot to carry a deep sense of shame and uselessness. Eventually, the cracked pot apologized to the master. It felt that its structural defect resulted in half of the farmer's hard work being wasted every single day. The farmer pointed to the side of the path they had walked for years. He had known about the crack since the beginning and had intentionally planted flower seeds along that specific side of the trail. On the side of the perfect pot, the ground remained dry and sterile, but the side of the cracked pot had become a vibrant, blooming ecosystem. The very leak that the pot considered a failure was the source of life for the flowers. When we critique the flaws of our loved ones, we often see only the leak. We miss the possibility that those same imperfections might be the mechanisms generating unique value or beauty in our shared lives. Relational conflict often stems from how we handle this friction. A wandering sadhu once addressed a village torn apart by constant arguments by telling a story of a group of porcupines caught in a brutal, freezing winter. The porcupines faced a biological dilemma. They were caught between the pain of isolation and the trauma of proximity. Staying separate meant freezing to death. However, crashing deeply into one another meant their sharp quills pierced each other's skin. Through constant micro-adjustments, they found a sustainable distance, sharing warmth without causing deep wounds. Human quills are made of anger, defensive pride, and the sharp words used during a conflict. We often lash out to protect our ego, forgetting that our survival depends on the warmth of the group. In an argument, we often prioritize being right over being connected. We win the point, but wound the person we love, leaving us effectively alone in the cold. Yielding to the boundaries of others is a practical requirement for long-term survival. When we lower our ego to adjust to those around us, we preserve the warmth necessary to endure the seasons of life. We also tend to carry the weight of past conflicts long after they are over. One parable describes a young man who picks up a stone every time he feels insulted and drops it into a sack on his back. Over time, his body hones to the weight. His steps slow, his posture warps, and his life becomes a struggle against the very burden he chose to collect. On a mountain trail, an old merchant asked him why he carried a bag of stones. The boy explained that each one represented a specific pain he refused to forget. The merchant picked up a stone, tossed it into the grass, and immediately walked away, noting that the act of throwing the stone was finished. It no longer occupied his hands or his mind. He pointed out that the person who delivered the insult had moved on and felt no weight. Only the victim was doing the work of retrieving the stone, putting it in a sack, and choosing to bear its weight indefinitely. Forgiveness is a strategic decision to empty your own sack. It is the realization that your mind deserves to be free of a weight that was never yours to carry in the first place. Our treatment of others eventually determines our own environment. Consider a master carpenter who was asked to build one last house before his retirement. Because his heart wasn't in the work, he took shortcuts. He used low-grade lumber, ignored precise measurements, and hid structural flaws behind fresh plaster, assuming he was merely fulfilling a final, boring obligation. When the work was finished, the contractor hands the keys back to the carpenter. He revealed that the house was a gift, the carpenter's own home for his retirement. The carpenter realized he had cheated no one but himself. He was now destined to live inside the shoddy, unstable walls he had built with his own hands. Every harsh judgment we hold, and every grudge we nurture, is a crooked nail in the architecture of our future. We are constantly building the psychological environment we will eventually inhabit. By letting go of judgment, adjusting for harmony, and dropping the weight of resentment, we act with a foresight that serves our own future. We are building a beautiful, unbreakable internal home, a place of clarity